What I'm going to do tonight is a bit of a sampler, and in between the samples, there could be something happening, so let's just see. So, I've written a few things. One of the things I've done is a web shifter series, and that deals with a character who is called Essen. She's a very popular. She's a semi-immortal adolescent shapeshifter who does all the wrong things for the right reasons, and it's my biology vacation time, so I'm very happy to be now writing her next book. So here's her very first memory for you. Imagine being a student, not for 10 orbits of a sun or 30, but over 200 such journeys. Granted, I spent the first few decades doing what any newborn Lanivarian would do, eating, metabolizing, differentiating, growing, eating, metabolizing, differentiating, growing. I remember it as a time of restlessness, of an awareness I was more, but unable to express this other than to whimper and chew. The day did arrive when I opened my mouth and something intelligible came out. I distinctly remember this something, web beings being possessed of perfect memory, as a clear and succinct request for more jamble grapes. My birth mother, Ansky, remembers it as an adorably incoherent babble that nonetheless signaled I was ready for the next phase of my existence. So she took me to Ursh, senior assimilator and eldest of the web, who promptly grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and threw me off the mountain. While horrifying to any real Lanivarian mother, and likely any intelligent species with parental care, this was Ursh being efficient. I was thus encouraged to cycle into my web self for the first time. It was that or be splattered on a rock 713 meters below. Instinct, as Ursh rather blithely assumed, won, and I landed on the surface of Pico's moon as a small, intensely blue blob of web mass, somewhat flattened, but unharmed. Unharmed, but I recall being overwhelmed with foreign sensation as my universe widened on every imaginable axis. I floundered to make some sense of it all until suddenly everything became right. I knew without being told this was my true self, that there was nothing unusual in losing sound and touch and sight and smell, because I could feel the spin of stars and atoms, hear harmony in the competing gravity of Pico and her moon, and see the structure of matter, and being perfectly able to distinguish what was appetizing from what was not appetite. I formed a mouth, small and with only one sharp edge, and then began scanning my new universe for something to bite. There! Not knowing what it was, I ripped a mouthful from the edible mass so conveniently close. Ursh taste? Ideas, not just nutrients, flooded my consciousness, new and nauseatingly complex. Ursh memory? Even as I hastily oozed myself into the nearest dark, safe-looking crevasse, I gained a word for what was happening to me. Assimilation. Oh, this was how web beings exchanged information, by exchanging the memory stored in their flesh. Our flesh. Exchange? I was mulling that over when a sharp, unexpected pain let me know I'd paid the price for my first bite of knowledge, and my studies had officially begun. Marie, if you would be so kind.
Certainly, Nicole, if you would be so kind.
Do we have a ticket, please, for the first 3 books of Essen's adventures?
I bring it to you because people will accuse me of cheating.
Never. This is really fun. I get to come in and out of this.
I know.
Isn't this great? I just love this part.
Just pick one.
Oh, okay. 0896. Oh! And if you have them already, you can trade. I'm not proud. So, Essen, if you would like to call it, is my biology surprise party. I just sit down and have lots of fun putting lots of gooey things into her stories. But when I wanted to write fantasy, I wanted to write something that I wasn't reading at the time, and I wanted to write sort of Jane Austen, Stardust, comfort food, wonder, weird stuff. So that's what I did. And people liked it, which was really, really nice. So from A Play of Shadow, this is the sequel to Turn of Light. And it's from the point of view of Jen Lin, who is the character who discovers that she is not quite as human as she thought. The moth danced on her hand, as if unable to settle, or unsure of its welcome. Jen lifted it level with her eyes, careful not to wish or want, or as best she could feel. "Help me find Bannon, please." The moth froze in place. "This you can do." Deep that voice and vast, the bone hill spoke thus, being sea. Lighter than a feather, the moth who was as well, larger than the world, that too, and Jen swallowed. "I don't understand." "This you can do." Oh dear, the words sounded promising, but what is it you think I can do? I've tried my mother's gift, I've tried wishing as a Turnborn, and as the other, she couldn't well presume to say, see, with one sitting on her hand. Nothing's worked. Bannon's vanished in this great city, and we'd come to help his sister and her husband. Now everyone's not lost and not where I want them. And she closed her lips, but it was too late. Had she gone too far? The moth bent a plumed antenna with a leg, bringing it across a fathomless eye, as if curious about itself. "You are one. This you can do." Well, of course she was one. That was the problem. She sat here alone on a roof when she was supposed to stay with Bannon and find his family, and they'd go home. Alone wasn't what the sea meant. She was one. The word filled her, finding empty spots and heart sores and worries she hadn't known. It answered and it promised and it warned. And most of all, at last, Jen understood. She'd kept herself divided. Woman, Turnborn, sea. It was time to put aside her fear and be whole. "I can do this." And her voice was vast yet familiar, and how could it not be hers? And she cupped her free hand over the moth and then pressed her palms together. "Keep us close," she whispered, even as she became glass and glow and tears of pearl. And she opened her hand and moved them as if tossing something into the air, and moths bubbled from her palms, streaming into the sky, smaller, yes, but just as white. They fluttered and danced into the mist, dozens, hundreds, thousands. And enough, she decided when it was, and lowered her hands, watching the last disappear into the night. In a sense, she'd sent an invitation. All that remained was for it to be accepted. If it was, those who were lost would find her. They would say later that never had there been so many white moths in Shannon, nor any so full of magic. To follow one was to find your heart. And so many did that special night 9 months later. Midwives were the busiest they could remember. Though the babes were healthy, and not a one cried. Strays, be they 4 foot or on 2, found homes that night as well, while constables stood by in amazement as their cells filled with thieves who'd followed the moths and wished most ardently to put back what they'd stolen to where it belonged. And well below 4 sunrise, the moths had vanished. And in the days after, the shadow sect quietly spread word how the moths had been a gift of the source to Czerneda, and all should be beholden. What went unremarked was that most of the moths returned to a single rooftop, followed by those particularly invited to find Jen the Lynn. Marie, shall we send someone home with the books?
Nice bag.
I got one. Oh, I got to give it away? Oh, okay. 873. There you go. And I'm happy to sign these things later. Just catch me if you'd like that sort of thing.
You did hear the numbers.
Oh no, I've been. It's her.
So for those of you who, like Brandon, have been reading the latest Clan Chronicles book in the subway, or on the bus, pardon me, I have I hope it's a treat. I'm going to read a little bit from the book that's coming out in October, To Guard Against the Dark. So for those of you who aren't familiar with my Clan Chronicles series, suffice to say these are the 2 main characters you're going to hear from, and things have not gone well. But it is book 9, it is the final book, and things will go better. Maybe. To Guard Against the Dark. Stars. Fingers interlaced, her hair stroking his cheek, they'd walk the nights of 99 worlds. Floated in space to watch planets spin, lay naked on mossy ground, lost in each other under so many stars. Those had been real. These couldn't be. The ceiling lay beneath a covering of formed concrete, plaids, and a significant amount of natural stone, a roof he'd built to keep out more than the night sky. Could be a dune curling over top as well, it being sandstorm season. Yet still stars twinkled overhead, wheeling in formation as if he watched them through time. A dream, that was it. He shut his eyes, fingers straying to the cool metal band around his wrist. Touch seemed odd, though, for a dream. He opened his eyes, looked up. Surely only in a dream could a segment of that starry scape flex, bend, lean down, closer and closer, those stars about to crush him. Need, location, urgency. Further, no more, he shouted. Get out of here. A heavy arm, or something arm-ish, plopped down on his chest and slid away. Jason Morgan squirmed in the opposite direction. On full! The port lights obeyed, blazing into every corner of the room. He was alone. Me. I stepped from the fresher, tossing still damp hair back over my shoulders, and pulled on my coveralls and boots. For the next few moments, for days uncounted, I would feast my eyes on his paintings, dwell in the memory of this leaf or that flower, recall the aroma of a planet night. And when I could take no more, I would undress and climb naked between sheets that never warmed and fall asleep, or what passed for sleep, here, to wake again and walk to the fresher. The ritual was mine, one I kept, having left the rest behind, no longer in need of food or drink or activity, and sometimes I would let a finger's tip touch the calm button. Others I couldn't bear it. And I just closed the top fastener when I heard footsteps again. They sounded different. I went to the door and pressed my ear to the metal to listen more carefully. The heavy footfalls were back, the same. They weren't alone. Another set marched with them down the corridor. No, not marched. Purpose to these steps and direction, yet their rhythm was as if they walked to music. No music here, I said, or I thought, as I turned away. The footsteps slowed and stopped, distracting me from a curl of vine, stopped outside my cabin door. 2 strangers now, 2 wanting in. Annoying. I couldn't rouse myself to shout this time, so I tried reason. There's no room. The cabin had been barely large enough for 2, and without him, it was so much smaller. They hadn't left, I could tell. You can't come in unless I know you. I felt clever. Hard kin. I whirled and threw the sheet at the door. Stranger! Sister! I stood where I meant to stay, panting, though I'd no need to breathe, in our cabin, and it was unfair to breach my walls. It was unwise. Keep away. You don't understand. They deemed me oblivious. I was not. Outside this cabin was all there is, filled with singers, my joyous, happy kind, part of the dance of the great ones. I'd heard their song, its strands woven by everything they were and experienced, love, imagination, and laughter, remembrance, curiosity, and joy, fascination, mystery, wonder. They created, lived, and I was glad for them. They believed me trapped, unable to reach them, and I was not. This bubble of reality was my strand, my creation, and if that made me a dissonance in their song, a tiny misstep in the dance, let them end me.